we'll put the yard signs out all over town, but then we start to see some guys put them in front of our yard sign.
That's why they're cheaper. It's less quality. There's a real reason for that.
And that's not the company we are. We want to make sure that we're investing into every customer.
So you guys you have yard sign battles going on.
You're listening to the Roofing Success Podcast, a show created to inspire roofing contractors to achieve optimal success in their roofing businesses. I'm the host, Jim Aline, the co-author of the books Internet Marketing for Roofing Contractors and The Best Known Roofer. I'm also the co-founder of Roofer Marketers, the leading digital marketing agency for the roofing industry. On each episode, I sit down with industry leaders to talk about their processes, the lessons they've learned, and how to find success in roofing.
Hey, welcome to another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast. If you can, if there's this button on the screen near you, maybe it says like, might say comment, maybe it says subscribe, hit one of those things for us. Leave us a review. And if you want to take the conversation beyond just what you're listening to here, go to Facebook, type in Roofing Success, and join the Roofing Success Facebook group. Today we have Bryson Berard with In the Light Roofing, Allentown, PA in the house. How you doing today, man?
Oh, doing good, man. Happy to be here. Thankful for the opportunity to just kind of share my story and hopefully impact somebody in a special way. So yeah, thankful.
Yeah, awesome, man. So what is that story? How did you get into roofing? How did In the Light Roofing come to be?
Yeah, so I started working for another roofing company, and I really just loved the work, and I loved the grind, and, I was like one of the weird guys that was like, can I be a roofer? So they were like, yeah, I mean, if you want to be on the roofing crew. So I started out working there and really enjoyed it. I was a former wrestler, so I kind of was used to that hard grind and that hustle. So it wasn't really anything new to me. It wasn't something that I had to like build up that tolerance for. It was something I really enjoyed. And worked there for a good period of time, learned the trade, and I was thankful. I was like, man, like now I actually know how to do roofing and construction and stuff. And I came from another job where I was doing construction. So just got acclimated to it. So then, it was kind of like a crossroads point where, I was working for them and they kind of did some things at times that I wasn't, I couldn't sleep well at night, just knowing that they were kind of taking some shortcuts, and it bothered me. But, here I am, this young laborer, just kind of learning the trade. Like, I don't really have much of a voice in the company. But then one day I told my foreman, I said, listen, I'm not going to do that. If you want to do that, you go ahead and do that. So, little bit of a disagreement, and they decided to let me go. So from there, I was like, well, I still know the trade. I still know roofing. I still know construction. So it's not like they can stop me from doing what I enjoy. So from there, I started my own company. It was just In the Light Contracting. Just was doing anything and everything I could to just, work for myself. So then years go by, and, I started to specialize in more of just the siding, roofing, gutters situation. And then, just this past year, which marks our 5th year in business, we changed the name to In the Light Roofing. So just strictly roofing. And, changed the name, and then now all we do is focus on roofing. So we got away from a lot of the extra trades, and I think it was one of the most powerful moves we could have made, especially for us, being in a predominantly retail market. We don't encounter a ton of insurance. Like, we still do insurance claims, and those are things that are good to help homeowners with, but it's not like our company structured around that. So I think we have to market in different ways than we can if we were just doing insurance.
Yeah, for sure.
So when you answer your question.
Yeah. When so starting off on the labor side, I mean, that there's a lot of people that come into this industry that I hear more of the owners, I would say, come from the sales side.
Yeah.
I see a connection there. Like a lot of new roofing business owners, they were a sales rep at another company. some were on the contracting side. Maybe they were doing subcontracting for, and then they started businesses. But your story is a little bit more rare, right? Coming from swinging the hammer or the nail gun, right? Like to the roofing industry, right? To being a business owner.
Yeah.
What are some of the lessons you had to learn along the way?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was getting out of that mindset of, being so focused on the daily tasks. And you kind of just get stuck with, okay, like today we're ripping off a roof, we're going to, shingle it and, do X, Y, and Z. And you start to lose sight of like the business side of it because there's so much opportunity there with the business. But when you get stuck in with every single day, just putting on roofs, you lose sight of that. So I kind of came to a point where I was like, man, I have something beautiful here. I've built a company. It's scalable, it's growable. But I was just so in the labor force that I didn't see that.
So you were still out there installing the roofs. You were building roofs.
I was the owner. I was the foreman of the crew. I was the salesman, and I had a crew of guys under me that I was leading and stuff. And we were doing great work, and we were doing some awesome stuff. But we were doing it at a very small scale. I mean, you can only do so much when you're doing everything. So then I started to grow in the business side of it, and I said, man, if I could focus more on the business and, do subcontract it out, still have quality control and all those kinds of things still in place. So it's not like you lose sight of that because that's where I came from. So I'm very familiar with what, standards should be. But I was like, man, let me see what I could do as far as like branding and marketing. So that was kind of the first business thing that came to you was, oh man, I got to learn how to market. I got to learn how to brand myself. What were some of those lessons that you've learned along the way? That's a really good question. Probably the biggest thing is just like the way I look at Nike. Like I'm a kind of guy that I like the nicer stuff. So it's like, man, if I could build my company into something that people could take pride in and say, no, I got my roof done, almost like a bragging thing. Like I got my roof done by In the Light Roofing. That was kind of like one of those things that I was like, I wanted to grow that side of it where, we wrap our trucks and, we try to have signs, pretty much all over the place in our location. So it was one of those things that, and everyone that works here, we take pride in what we do and who we are as a company and how we want to grow that. So just, I think having a good brand behind you is something that
what were some of the first steps you took in building the brand? Like, what were some of the first things that you made sure were happening with your company in terms of brand?
Yeah, so the easiest thing was changing the name from In the Light Contracting to In the Light Roofing. Watched something on Roofing Insights where they talked about how much easier it is to brand. And I was like, man, that is such a no-brainer. So that was like the first step. Just investing in, clothing for all the guys. So like all our subcontractors, they have, Carhartt coats, they have, hoodies, all the stuff that they need to really show that like, hey, we're a legitimate company. When you see all the guys on the roof with like blue coats on and blue hoodies and all the trucks are wrapped and our equipters are wrapped, everything's like consistent. So when you see us versus like the next roofing company down the street, because there's so many, how could we be different? And those were a few ways that we found to, help with differentiating ourselves.
Yeah. And I know I watching Dimitri's stuff, I know that that's something that he talks about, and I'm all for that, right? It's so much easier for the consumer to know what they're looking for, right? They see your brand when they're looking for roofing and your name is roofing, right? Like it makes that connection. It's harder if you say construction,
Yeah.
right? Like the
It sure is.
connection isn't there. Or like it's a different thing.
Yeah, people used to call us all the time for like the oddest stuff. They'd be like, "Hey,
Yeah.
can you put this door in?" And I have this thing, and I'm like, "Man, like we're only a roofing company." But like, how do they know? They don't know
How do they
because
know? Right.
yeah,
And so it's confusing to the consumer, right? How many people don't hire contractors all the time? It's not like, when you're in the trades and you're working and it becomes so familiar to you, right?
exactly.
Like, but homeowners, it's not familiar to them,
Sure. And a lot of the
right?
times people are doing maybe a handful of projects in their lifetime. So like they don't know who to trust, they don't know who to call.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, that's why you see those horror stories all the time with, contractors taking advantage because they don't really know what they're doing, but somebody called them to do something and they didn't want to turn the money away where,
That's right.
we want it to be specialized and be the true professional. So if someone calls us with anything roofing related, we're not like, hey, that's a little bit out of our wheelhouse. It's just anything roofing, we got you covered.
Nice. And now, so you started with the marketing, got everyone on the team, all the crews, everybody's wearing logoed clothing, trucks
Yeah,
are wrapped, equipters are wrapped. Everything is looking very professional. It has a consistent message of roofing, right? In the light roofing, so it's very easy for people to understand. What are some of the like next business lessons that you started to implement, or things like business going from being a tradesman to a business owner?
man, CRM was powerful.
Mm,
CRM was like the next level up from just writing everything on paper and Microsoft, that kind of stuff. The CRM was a big step in the right direction. That was able to help us, be more organized, give more touches to homeowners where you're not like doing someone's job and can't even find their information. That
yeah,
happens a lot where you're like, man, I have to go to this lady's house. And I don't even have her phone number. And then you're trying to look through like old emails or text messages and you're like, oh, there it is. Now I
yeah,
could just go into our CRM consistently, email address, phone number, house number, Google Maps. It's all right there. So that was a big step to, helping us grow.
yeah. I was down at the Job Nimbus Solutions Summit a couple months ago, and I was talking to someone who had just implemented the CRM in their business, and they had two sales reps for the company, and both of them were really well performing sales reps, um, and but had never used the CRM, right? And so they were talking about like we just go to the Spiral, we just go get it from the Spiral, and I was like, what do you mean the Spiral? And they're like, the Spiral notebooks. Like they had stacks of Spiral notebooks in their trucks
Yeah,
that they would write everything down in, and that was their database, right? That was where all of the information was stored. And so all of their past customers, everyone's information, all of it was all in these Spiral notebooks, right? And then so it was a transition to get that information into a CRM, but
yeah.
once they did, man, it's just a different, it's just different. What CRM did you guys go with?
We stay with Job Progress.
Okay.
So we got used to them in the beginning, and it's just nice. I mean, with any CRM, like once you try to move, like you can't take that information with you. So once you
Yeah.
kind of get locked in, it's you're just with it for life. And so,
It gets challenging to move from CRM to CRM, that's for sure.
I feel like it does everything that we need. I know there's a lot of guys that use Company Cam.
Yep.
I think Company Cam's a sweet thing, but Job Progress does the same thing too. So
Oh, it has it integrated and things like
yeah,
that.
it has it integrated, like timestamp. It doesn't do it as quick, but that's one less app you have to pay for
Yep.
per month, and
Yep.
you have to move it and stuff. Where Job Progress, everything, before, after, during pictures, all implemented
Nice.
into their customer webpage.
So now you got some marketing going. You got the CRM implemented, so you're really tracking how things are going. You have that business owner view of the company.
Yeah.
I like to kind of refer to it as, right. You get to see it from a different angle. What was kind of the next things that you started thinking about from a business standpoint?
From there, it's just like processes and procedures. So like having consistent results. So like having an estimator go out into the field, but he's the estimator, and then I kind of like end up building the quotes. So from there, it's like making sure that he's taking the correct pictures on the CRM, and then that I can see it, whether he's trying to close it on the spot or if he has to come back and do that whole thing. Just like I'll show you here. So we have like these packets, and then they're just, how hard do you think it is? What kind of ladder you're going to need? Are you going to need a dump trailer, or you need a dumpster? So they would have to fill this out, and then this is something that they just take out for production then. So like now I see it, build it. Was there any like odd stuff going on? And then that gets worked into the price, and then from there we end up selling the job. Now the production guy knows what materials to pick. So like we have a warehouse where all accessories other than shingles are stored here. So that gets loaded up into the equipter like the night before, and then that gets sent out. So now the guy really shouldn't have any issues with being short on anything, because the estimator has gone out to estimate everything and say what he needed before he even bid on the job. So now that we got the job sold, the production guy is going to be the one to pick the materials and get that loaded into the the equipter, and then the shingles and stuff get delivered. But by then, everything we need is already there at the job.
Yeah, nice. And so this is what I'm hearing from you is that coming from the labor side, coming from the from the production side, it seems like you're still in that role a little bit or that's your main role in the company.
I would say I just kind of oversee oversee everything, but it's definitely a passion of mine. It's something that I still love to this day. I love going out on jobs, on install days and stuff. So I'm still out there, but it's just it's like my first love. You can't get away from it. But this year I want to focus on some other stuff to grow the company. But it's just something where I started, so I get I guess I'm passionate about it is the best.
So let's talk about that a little bit. Let's coming from that side of things, right? There's always, you have your salespeople. Salespeople are salespeople, and they like to sell things.
Yeah.
Right. How have you managed that process? Because I would assume that that's in you, right? That's something that you enjoy. You enjoy the building and the, you know what I mean? Like that part of it, the installation of the roof. And I would assume that you also have a high expectation of quality and things like that because of coming from that side of things.
Yep. Yeah. I can spot poor workmanship pretty quick.
Yeah.
And
so how have you, let's do this. How have you structured, it sounds like some of these checklists and things like that. How have you structured things so that your salespeople are selling proper expectations to the homeowner and creating a nice flow from the sale through production?
So I think the biggest thing is right off the first phone call. So we have a discovery call with them. So we ask them what their wants and needs are. We're not the kind of company that's going to set up an appointment just because you call in. It's not like that we're like, oh, you're not good enough for us. It's just we want to see how committed they are. Like, how committed are you to actually working with us? Or are you just calling 5 different roofing companies? Now, if you're calling 5 different, we'll still give you a bid, but we want to know what we're getting ourselves into. So our inside sales does that. They have, a few minute phone call and just find out what they're looking for in a company, what they want to invest in the project. We have different systems, so there might be different price points for them. So that's something. And then that gets passed off to the outside sales guy. And then he does his thing where he, he's already got everything that he needs. He's called the homeowner to introduce himself. He goes out to the job, gets everything together. So yeah, from there, it's just I think it's just transparency. Like, we're very transparent with people. We don't try to, like, you know, tell people that we're going to do this and then really do something.
Yeah.
So it's just, I think that that's something that stuck with me since my previous job, is that, like, just being honest with people, just letting them know, like, what we can and can't do for them. If it's something that I can't think of a reason, but if it's something that we wouldn't be able to do, we'll just tell them that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
being honest up front about it.
Yeah.
That's an interesting
and setting
concept.
clear expectations too, like letting
Yes.
them know, like, hey, we can do this and we can't do this, and then not trying to overpromise and say, oh, we'll do that just to get the sale. We'll say, okay, like, this is something that we're gonna have to figure out. We want to do business with you, and I know you want to do business with us, but we got to overcome this. So we just spend. I think it's been trained into my outside sales guy, like, don't overpromise to people and deliver on what you're saying you're going to deliver on, so that there's no hiccups at the end where people are not paying for the job. Like, it's just good communication. And I'm not saying we're amazing at it, but it's something that we really pride ourselves in, to do a good job on letting expectations be known, and how can't we help in every situation.
The discovery call is an interesting, concept, right? We do discovery calls with our marketing agency, right? When someone reaches out to us, that's what we do first. We want to know first of all, if we can help them, right? Like, we need to figure out, like, hey, is this someone that we can truly help? Is this someone that we can truly serve?
Yeah.
I don't hear many companies doing that in the trades, in roofing. Where did that come from?
Yeah, so I don't know if you're familiar with Ryan Groth's Sales Transformation Group. So we were part of them last year, and man, the investment that we put in with them, definitely like 10x. So shout out to Ryan Groth. But yeah, they taught the discovery call, and so that's something that we implemented, and I think is probably the most powerful thing, is just to have a open conversation to, what are they're calling for a roofing company, but do they know what kind of company we are? We're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, we tend to fall in the middle. If some people are calling 5 different roofing companies and they're looking for the cheapest bid, and they're like, yeah, we're looking for the cheapest bid, and we're just like, respectfully, we would encourage you to maybe look somewhere else. And people are open to that. Like, they appreciate that we're not going to waste their time. I mean, I've had many, many calls, and it was a great, healthy conversation, but it just wasn't the right fit. And they went somewhere else, but there was no hard feelings. So people are appreciative to that. We can just tell them right off the bat that, hey, we might be a little bit more than what they're looking to invest. And some people see the value and other people's don't, but that's okay.
And what has been the outcome of implementing this discovery call process?
Oh man, the sales go up tremendously, because now, like, for instance, in a retail market, sometimes you got to come in competitive. So, like, let's say you would charge for a chimney. Maybe in this situation, you're going to make great money on the roof. Let's not charge them for the chimney. I'm not saying we always do this, but let's say the job's $10,000, right? But our discovery call found out they were willing to invest $11,000. Well, instead of us taking the job for $11,000 less than what we would have done it before, now we know when that the outside sales guy goes in to sell the job, that they're willing to invest 11, and now we can charge for everything we were supposed to charge. Mm-hmm. We were going to shortchange ourselves because we just thought, 10's the job and we'll just do it because we want to get the job, but they're committed to spending more with us. So now the quality is always there, but now you can spend even more time to make sure all the nails are picked up, and, the interest level goes up. So you spend more time on the job. Maybe it's a one-day job, but you want to just come back that next day too, just to triple check to make sure that hey, is that customer completely happy with everything? Hey, could you leave us a review online? Build a little bit more rapport with them. When you're doing stuff at such low margins, your interest level can't be there because you would make zero money. So
Yeah.
and that's not the company we are. We want to make sure that we're invested into every customer as much as possible. So it's been pretty awesome this year to meet some different people and help people. And now they're calling me like their friends. So that's something powerful to know that, hey, not only are we doing good in the world and we're making money, but we're creating friends along the way.
Yeah.
That's pretty special.
That you just said something that stuck out to me, and that was essentially your interest level in the job and your commitment to doing the right thing on the job sometimes can reflect the margin in the job. Right? Like those jobs that you start not making money on, boy, those become not high priority sometimes.
I mean,
right?
I see it all the time with our competitors when they're thousands less than us, but they don't have a project manager on site. They just send the crew out. The material gets delivered to the job. And if something were to come up or break something, you're calling a guy that won't answer the phone, and you're like regretting that you went with the cheaper bid. Because for us, we have a project manager, inside sales, outside sales. Our crews are trained on how we install. We use high quality materials. So, that goes a long way. So like you kind of get what you pay for. And again, there's guys that are much even higher than us. So it's not like we're out of the market value. So we're fair market value for the services we provide. We're just not willing to compromise on that.
And that's another important thing that I truly believe in. You have to commit to your margins, right? Like, and you have to be able to explain your margins also, right? And justify why, hey, look, these are the reasons. I'm going to have a project manager on site. We have these extra layers of things in place to ensure the quality of our jobs is higher than that person. That's why they're cheaper. It's less quality. There's a real reason for that. And the margin that you have in your business also ensures that you stay in business.
Exactly. So think about warranties, right? Like we're in business to be in business for a long period of time. So like if we give someone a 10-year or even a 25-year, depending on what type of warranty they go with, I want to honor that for 25 years. So if I sell something last year, I want to back it up for that period, however long that duration of the warranty is. I don't want to just say, hey, manufacturer, we're out of business, but you're still on the hook because that's what happens. You know what I mean?
That's what happens.
I want to be the guy that people can look to for years and years and years to come as the go-to roofer.
I think it'd be helpful also to explain the inside sales versus outside sales position and the responsibilities of each. How have you structured that?
Yeah, so that was something that we learned from like Monarch Roofing, like Act. So we went to one of their sales trainings and they dove super deep into the inside. And that was when I was like, what the heck, dude? What is the difference, right? So it's definitely a good question. But the inside sales, they're cultivating that relationship. They're doing the discovery call. They're checking in with the homeowner. The outside salesperson, he's running the appointments. He's selling the job, and then he's communicating with the homeowner along the way. But he's devoted to helping other people. So the inside sales kind of picks up his slack to make sure that if there is anything that were to come up or if there is a question and, one of my guys isn't able to answer it, the inside sales guy can call him up or emails or texts or calls or whatever. So it just improves communication. And those are kind of maybe some differences.
Yeah, for sure. That improvement in communication, I think the worst thing that can happen in the course of a job is a customer wondering, and not able to get an answer to a question.
Yeah.
Because any of us, when we're left with that, with something to stew on, right? It could go to the worst case scenario.
Sure.
If we're not getting the right communication. So that relationship, and I've had Martin on the show a couple of times, and the way that they've structured that, and I know a couple of other companies that have executed on that very well, and it makes a big difference, right?
It sure does. It sure does.
It makes a big difference in that, and it's really that overall customer experience that you're trying to create. It's not,
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head. Is that customer experience just goes way up. So, I mean, who could be over communicated?
Yeah.
The outside guys killing it, and the inside sales killing it. Man, what a beautiful experience that homeowner gets to get, because they feel like they're totally comfortable. They're the one that made that decision. We're not high pressured sales force. I train my guys to just be relational. So just get to know people and find out what their wants and needs are. And if they already know that you're the authority of the roofing space, they don't need to know every little, underlayment. Now, if you're an Al, if you're a different kind of guy, you better know your underlayments and how many nails and what kind of wind warranties you get. But not everybody's like that. Some people just want to just trust somebody. I know that's how I buy. I buy off of trusting the person. Do I like them? Do I trust them? If I do, I already know that they're the authority in the space.
That's right.
So, I'd like to know certain things for myself, but do I think that they're not going to do that? No, I trust them. So I know that they're going to deliver on what they said that they were going to do.
Yeah, it's impactful to convey that you are the expert, right? And to develop that trust. And that really goes back to starting with the marketing, right? Like the brand. And do you have do you have a story behind your brand? I mean, in the light, you know what I mean? It's
special. So I'm a Christian, and that's really where it comes from. So I remember that within 5 minutes of me losing my job at the last roofing company, I just remember driving away, and I'm like, dude, I'm just gonna start my own company. I was not even upset or crying or nothing. I was just I was pissed a little bit because but at the same time too, I remember driving away and I was just like, man, I'm just gonna start my own company. I'm gonna just call it In the Light Contracting. And within 5 minutes, that name popped into my head. I just wanted to do something. I mean, In the Light, there's a lot of biblical references to that. And for me, my morals and integrity, really come from the Bible. So that was something that I wanted to incorporate within the name, because there's so many roofing companies. So how do you be different? How do you be unique? So that was something. And then of course roofing is just a no-brainer. So that's a little bit of the story behind the name.
So what other stuff do you do for marketing? We talked about your branding, but when we talked I know you guys are doing some SEO stuff. You've also done a lot of yard signs. Speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, so I mean the yard signs are an easy thing. So we use Dope 360. So they do the yard signs, and we get them at pretty affordable rates. I think they're close to a couple bucks per yard sign. So it's man, even if I put one yard sign out and it lasts till the end of the day, $5, 20 people saw it. It's just brand awareness. So we're pretty ridiculous in our town, where we've actually we'll put the yard signs out all over town, but then we start to see some guys put them in front of our yard signs, and it's just it's an encouragement, man. They're intimidated, so they want to try to one up us, but it's come on, get your own space.
So you guys you have yard sign battles going on.
Our yard signs, and it's just it's super. It pumps me up because I know I'm doing something right, that they're scared.
And that, I mean, that just shows that people that they work, right? Because your competitors are seeing them all over the place, and they're like, "Hey, we can't let these guys do this, right?" Like they're gonna, yeah. But I
healthy competition, you know.
yeah, for sure. And I know I've had another guy on the podcast, Ethan Andes, who also used this strategy.
Yeah.
Especially during COVID, because they knock a lot of doors and they weren't able to knock a lot of doors. But man, for a small investment, right? For a really small investment,
yeah,
you could get those phones ringing. Like how like, you know, when you put out the 100-yard signs, say, what has that kind of done in terms of like phone calls or inbound activity? Have can you measure it? Have you seen it? Like, how's that work for you?
So we always ask how they heard about us. So most of the time it's Google, but sometimes it's a combination. So say there's a certain neighborhood that we want to target. All right, so we're gonna send those mailers out. We're gonna send a guy out to just knock on doors or just put door hangers out, and then we'll put, maybe a local park or something. We'll put the yard signs out, and then we end up doing a roof in there, and now they see us doing a roof. So it's just multiple touches and just branding yourself that maybe the neighborhood hasn't heard about us. So now we need to do some things so they are familiar with us, and when they do need a roof, or they know who to call.
That's right, and that's part of it. It's becoming the go-to, right? So, and in becoming the go-to, you have to be seen a lot of times. I refer to those as brand impressions, right? So the more, like in digital marketing, there, like on a Facebook ad or a Google display ad, there's a cost per impression. You could just go after impressions just to have people see your brand. Yep. It's the same thing with a yard sign. People have to drive by it. Like you said, you put it at the park. People are driving by it. Then they see the truck in the neighborhood. They see the equipters. They see the build going on. They see, like, it's these, all of a sudden they start to remember you.
Yep.
And then they decide you're the company to call, and it all stacks on top of each other. But a strategy like those yard signs, it's not something that takes a whole bunch of money.
No, it's super cheap. I mean, the amount of money some people spend on Google ad spends is it's amazing. It is. Yeah. It's and I'm sure it works to some degree, but man, to justify spending that much, you have to do so many jobs just to pay for that. Where we try to break it down. So like we'll spend a little bit on the yard signs. We'll spend on SEO, right? Yep. Or we'll spend it on door hangers, or I can't think of all of them. But spend money in different ways, and you try to build that out instead of just like being only on Google, and then nobody knows who you are other than just Google. I mean, Google is super powerful, and it carries its weight. But like for me, in my opinion, I think I want to like have different people know who we are. Like, oh, I saw the yard sign. Oh, I saw him on Google. Oh, I saw him on Facebook. I see him on Instagram. So it's like, and I thought of Facebook and Instagram, super easy, like zero, like you don't really have to spend a lot. And then even when you're going to sell a customer or something like that, you can be like, hey, did you see us on Facebook? No, I didn't. Let me check you out. So they'll go and look us up, and they're like, wow, you guys are doing some cool stuff. And like the money that we spent on that was just the time to create the video.
Yep. I think that's it's a good strategy to have people go and look at your social media. Hey, go check out our social media. You can see projects that we've been working on. You could, and then they could scroll through there. What types of videos are you guys creating for your social media?
Yeah, we try to do stuff for like more like the community. Like we've done some nonprofit like outreach stuff like that, where we'll invest in. So this past year we went to a neighborhood center. So like help kids kind of stay off the streets and stuff like that. So we spent, I think it was like we went there 2 or 3 times and just got to like meet the kids. And then we had a pizza party for them. And then for that quarter, we donated 1% of all the 1% of all the revenue brought in. So we ended up giving them like $5,000 to the. So we do stuff like that, and I think that helps support like other people. Like when they are at like, oh man, you guys are like $500 more, and you're like, well, do you know of this $500 that you think is more is actually going to help? And so it kind of helps with the sale because now you're appealing to people's emotions and getting them away from using logic.
Yeah.
You know, we want people to make emotional decisions with us.
Yeah, and those being a part of the community is a big. I mean, that's another brand awareness type of thing, right? Like you're out there, people get to know who your company is and see the, you know, especially people that have an attachment to that specific, you know, like that specific nonprofit or that specific community event. That's awesome. Those are to me like foundational things that contractors should be doing on an ongoing basis. Like,
yeah, I mean, one of my biggest things, went to a conference last year and the guy was just talking about like the impact, right? And this is a guy that was making millions, right? Profiting. And I'm like, man, this guy has all this money, which is like super awesome, right? But like, what does he do with it? Every time he sells a house, he builds a house in Mexico, and he just like, talked about the impact he was making. And I was like, man, it's not all about, and he talked about that. He's like, it's not all about the money. It's about like what kind of impact and legacy you're going to leave when you die. You know what I mean? And that's something that we all have to like come to reality one day. You know, we're going to be dead in the ground, and it's just going to be off of how people remember us.
For sure.
And like, did we do stuff to help and impact, or were we just kind of selfish and just wanted to pay people less than what they deserved, or you know, hoard the profits for ourselves instead of distributing that to other people when we're already making great money? Like, why not spread the wealth around? So
yeah. And that's what I mean. The business ownership, a lot of times it allows you to do that, right? When you start to find some success in your business, like we all need to pay our bills first, right? Yeah. Like that, you know, when you're starting out, you got to pay the bills. Even when you're far down the road, you got to pay the bills, right? And you know, but along the way, if you start to generate some success in your business, it's really impactful that you all of a sudden the opportunity to help others opens up. And so taking those opportunities is an awesome thing to do. What would you say the greatest insight is that you could share with our audience that's really helped in, you know, you build in the light and find success in your roofing business?
Yeah, so one of our core values is kind of like a weird one, but I think it's sweet. It's called being a stewardship Jedi. So just being a good steward of what you've been given. So like no matter at like what phase you're at in the company or where we're at as a company, you just have to be a good steward. So I think that would be it. Like to be faithful with the little shows all the more why you deserve more. So if you can't be a good steward of the small things, why do you deserve more? So I think some people, they have these massive companies, but they're not good stewards of it. And then they go bankrupt and they were never good stewards. So I'd rather be at like maybe more of like a moderate growth, but like still healthy and scalable, and just be a good steward of that versus, you know, not.
That's awesome, man. This has been another episode of the Roofing Success Podcast.
If you would like to generate more revenue through your digital marketing efforts, please visit roofermarketers.com to get a copy of the book, The Best Known Roofer. Also, check the training section of the website for guides on everything from running effective pay-per-click ads to how to properly set up your Google My Business listing. Thanks for listening.